Five strangers are trapped in a diner at the very beginning of the zombie apocalypse. Hi everyone. This is a short recap of the second part of the zombie series, Black Summer. You can watch the first part by following the link in the description. Rose, Spears, Ryan, and Lance find an abandoned school building and see a man walking by with a leash. The man, whose name is Earl, completely ignores them. Once inside the school, they decide to gather some medical supplies. Entering the music room, they leave their findings there and look around. Ryan tries to play the drum, but Rose stops him. Then Lance tries to hit the drum, but Spears tackles him, explaining that the noise could attract zombies. Everyone decides to rest and take a nap. When they wake up, they hear footsteps coming from the second floor. Cautiously leaving the music room, they begin to explore the hallways. Soon they spot a little boy. He looks frightened and immediately runs away. Ryan tries using gestures to figure out where the boy went. Rose and Ryan start looking for the boy. They go to the basketball court and then into the locker room by the gym, but almost immediately rush out, barely holding back their nausea. There are lifeless bodies lying in the showers. Ryan runs off in an unknown direction, and Rose loses sight of him, then sets off to look for him. However, she gets distracted by the sound of a child screaming in the distance. Spears and Lance return to the music room and are surprised to find that the medicine is gone. Realizing they're not alone, they decide to leave as quickly as possible, but the front door turns out to be locked. Spears grabs a map of the building and goes to look for the keys. They head into the janitor's closet, but none of the keys are there. Realizing it's a trap, the men try to leave, but when Lance steps closer, he accidentally triggers a trap with a tripwire. The door slams shut, and they find themselves locked in separate rooms. Rose continues searching for the crying child. She realizes the sound is coming from the restroom. She walks in thinking she's found the child, but instead discovers a school megaphone attached to a toilet. The crying suddenly turns into eerie laughter. When Rose tries to leave, she finds that the door is locked from the outside, and she falls into a panic. Ryan spots the boy again, but when he turns around, he sees a group of teenagers holding weapons. The gang ties his hands, covers his head with a shirt, and takes him to a room where other teens are waiting. Spears hears the laughter coming from the megaphone in the restroom. He notices a board blocking the door. Pushing it aside, he opens the door and finds Rose trapped and terrified. He helps her out, while the megaphone's laughter grows louder. Rose is still looking for Ryan. Together with Spears, they run into the teenagers. The leader demands that Rose and Spears hand over their gun, but they refuse. Rose finally spots Ryan. One of the teens removes the shirt from his head and unties his hands. The leader orders the boy to shoot Ryan if he moves, but since Ryan is deaf, he doesn't hear the command and starts moving. Rose desperately yells at him to stop, but the boy fires. The bullet hits Ryan in the back, killing him. As Ryan begins to turn, Spears pulls Rose away from him. They run into a classroom, where a fight breaks out between Spears and another guy, while the teens watch the scene with amusement from another room. In the end, Rose finds a gun and manages to shoot Ryan. Soon after, they finally find a way out of the school. The man Rose and Spears had seen earlier helps them block the door with a table so the infected Ryan can't follow them. After the trio escapes, the teens kill the infected Ryan and set up new traps, leaving the school door slightly open for the next unsuspecting victims. Meanwhile, Son and William try to leave the diner and head east. But as soon as they step outside, zombies rush at them from around the corner, forcing them to retreat. Disheartened, they sit down in one of the booths, joining 3 other people who are also trapped inside the diner. Lance didn't die. He was simply left to die. He wanders through the school, then enters the library, sits down, and picks up a book to read. Almost immediately, he hears distant screams and banging, but tries his best to ignore it. After some time unable to bear it any longer, Lance leaves the library. He climbs onto the roof and slides down a drain pipe to the street. Just as he's about to leave, the kids execute another captive and then sick a new zombie on Lance. The teens watch with smirks as Lance runs, dodging the zombie and crosses the neighborhood. After a long chase, Lance finally catches his breath and looks around. He finds himself on a completely empty street, entirely alone. He wanders through the city, searching for anyone he could team up with. It seems being alone is becoming harder and harder for him to bear. He tries entering different stores, but all the doors are locked, and there's no one inside. He starts calling out for help, hoping someone will hear and respond.
Anybody?
Later, Lance finds an unlocked car with the keys still in the ignition, but the engine won't start. Just then a dog runs by. Lance calls out to it, hoping for some kind of companionship, but the dog ignores him, which leaves him even more disheartened. He decides to try his luck in a grocery store and is surprised to find it intact, no signs of break-in or looting. Lance grabs a basket and starts shopping. Beer, cereal, canned goods, cracker. He's clearly pleased with himself. Out of habit, he begins scanning the items at the register, as if everything were still normal. That's when he remembers he forgot to grab a can opener. But before he can find one, a zombie enters the store. Lance is forced to flee once again. He's chased to a yard filled with school buses. He climbs onto the roof of one and decides to just sit and wait, while the zombie below relentlessly tries to reach him. For now, Lance is safe. The zombie can't climb onto the roof, but he doesn't look relaxed. After some time, the zombie loses interest, and Lance begins to hope he can make an escape. However, as he climbs down, he unintentionally shows the zombie how to get up. Lance jumps from the roof of the bus and lands on the roof of a nearby van. He runs again, trying to find shelter in a fire station, but instead of salvation, he ends up cornered. Lance decides to fight the zombie with an axe. But his attempt fails. When he steps back to swing, the axe gets caught on a row of coat hooks. He has to flee once more. He hides in the local library, crouching behind shelves and trying to stay as quiet as possible. Finally, a stranger comes to his aid, attacking the zombie and eventually killing it, but not before being bitten himself. Lance, filled with gratitude, but also understanding the grim reality, thanks the man, and then strikes him with a blunt object to prevent him from turning into a zombie. Manny and Carmen, passengers of the ominous black truck that had previously tried to run William off the road, are sitting in a separate booth in the diner. Manny claims he's not afraid of anything and opens the blinds to prove his bravery, which draws the attention of nearby zombies and terrifies the other people in the diner. A conflict erupts between William and Manny, and they begin threatening each other. Sun and Carmen try to calm them down, holding them back and urging peace. At that moment, the third truck passenger comes out from the back room with some canned goods, noting that they were lucky to find this place. He suggests they team up to survive the zombies, but William doesn't trust him. The man introduces himself as Phil and pulls William aside to discuss a plan for reaching the stadium together. However, it becomes clear that Phil is cunning and calculating. He suggests they separate the strong from the weak and move on without the others. Meanwhile, Carmen is talking to Sun. She tells her about something called the Horde, a rampaging mass of zombies she's already seen. They need to reach the stadium before the Horde arrives, but the path leads through a war zone in the city center, which means they'll need weapons. Sun heads to the storage room and begins filling a sack with canned food, using an old potato sack. She then distracts the zombies by banging on the window from inside the diner, while the others go outside and attempt to attack the zombies. A fight breaks out, but they fail to kill any of them. After a while, they retreat and rush back into the diner. Rose and Spears are walking along a forest trail with the stranger who had saved them earlier. Rose is exhausted, possibly dehydrated, and has a breakdown when she thinks she sees her daughter walking ahead. Rose talks to herself, pushes Spears off the trail to get closer, and then begins to laugh and cry, first with joy, then with hysteria. No one comments or pays much attention. Rose gradually pulls herself together, and they simply continue on. Phil wants to throw Sun to the zombies so the others can escape. He claims she's the weakest link, even though she's actually smarter and more capable than any of them. Eventually, it becomes clear that Phil is simply hostile towards Sun because of her background, and that, in his eyes, makes her weak. He convinces Manny and Carmen to take his side, and despite an internal struggle, William ultimately makes the right choice. He defends Sun. During the escalating conflict, Sun notices a scratch on Phil's arm, sparking fear that he might be infected. In the end, everyone turns on Phil, knocks him out, and throws him outside, right to the zombies. Meanwhile, Rose and Spears come across the diner but can't get in because 2 zombies are standing outside. Spears has only 2 bullets left, just enough to kill them if they don't move. As he tries to sneak up on one, William throws Phil out of the diner. Spears uses the opportunity to shoot one zombie, but misses the second. The others rush out of the diner as a group and attack the remaining zombie, finishing it off. At the same time, William kills Phil before he has a chance to turn. Rose watches the scene with a heavy, burned-out look in her eyes, a mix of exhaustion, disappointment, and a hint of satisfaction. After the group refreshes themselves and restocks supplies, the survivors leave the diner. This is where the film ends.